Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to be with us today to discuss AEMO's annual results and business highlights for the financial year ended 30th of June 2025, and for your continued support and collaboration. I'm Violette Michele, the Executive General Manager of AEMO's Policy and Corporate Affairs Division. There are some formalities I'd like to briefly mention. This session will be recorded, and the recording will be made available on the AEMO website. We encourage you to post your questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A function in Teams. We have allowed time following the presentation for Q&A, and we will address as many questions as time allows. To begin, I would like to introduce you to Kerry Major, who is part of AEMO's team that worked on our Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where we work. Thanks, Kerry.
Good afternoon. I would like to acknowledge the Dharawal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land I work and live on. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Last year, AEMO published its Reflect Wrap, and as part of our work, we have rolled out cultural learning programs across the organisation, deepened our relationships with First Nations groups, and considered how we can include RAP commitments in our contracts, tenders, procurement, and employment policies. We are developing the next stage, our Innovate RAP, this year. Our journey to reconciliation is ongoing. I hope we will all work together towards a common goal.
Thank you, Kerry. So today we will divide our presentation into 4 sections. First, AEMO CEO Daniel Westerman will outline our FY25 business performance. Second, AEMO CFO Vanessa Hannon will take you through our financial performance. Then Daniel will share highlights of AEMO's FY26 priorities. At the end, both Vanessa and Daniel would be happy to take questions. Today's session is expected to run for approximately 45 to 50 minutes. I'll now hand over to our CEO, Daniel Westerman, who will take you through our business performance.
Thanks very much, Violette. And let me add my thanks to everyone joining online today. At AEMO, it is absolutely forefront in our mind that every Australian household and business has a real stake in our work, and so to the maximum extent possible, we put openness, transparency and collaboration at the heart of our approach. This presentation is one way that we demonstrate this commitment, alongside our other year-end activities like publishing our annual report, our budget and fees, our strategic corporate plan, and all the associated consultations. I trust that today's event helps to provide some further transparency about AEMO's organisational performance to you and to all of our stakeholders. So let me begin by just recapping who we are and what we do. AEMO is an independent, not-for-profit company operating on a cost recovery basis. We carry out 4 primary functions as shown on this slide. We manage electricity and gas systems and markets across Australia. We have an important role in planning the energy systems of the future, and we partner with governments to support the delivery of new investment into energy infrastructure. AEMO has members, not shareholders. Australian governments together hold 60% of AEMO's membership, and industry members hold the remaining 40%. Our functions are prescribed in the laws, the rules and the regulations that govern Australia's energy markets. And the performance of AEMO's statutory functions are the responsibility of the board, and AEMO's members don't have the power to influence those statutory functions through their membership. But by design and by choice, we work collaboratively with industry, with governments, with consumers, and with other market bodies. Now, governments are asking AEMO to do more to support energy consumers in what is the most complex transformation of our industry since the energy system was created, really. The slide in front of you highlights the scope of our responsibilities. AEMO operates energy systems and markets across Australia with responsibilities that vary by jurisdiction. There are quite considerable synergies in this national remit, and we leverage our experience and our expertise across those geographies and across our various functions and markets. In Victoria, we currently hold a unique role in transmission planning and connection, but this role is scheduled to transfer to VicGrid from November this year. AEMO employs around 1,800 people in various locations around Australia and are led by an experienced executive team. We recently welcomed Kirsten Rose, who joined as AEMO's West Australian lead in August. Many of you on this call will personally interact with our people, and I trust that your interactions are engaging and productive. Our staff are absolutely experts in their field. They're driven by a deep care for Australia's energy consumers and committed to the same openness, transparency and collaboration that I hope you're coming to expect from AEMO. Now, operational conditions across FY25 highlighted that Australia's energy transition is well underway as we shift from a power system designed on baseload and peaking to a new operating paradigm of renewables and firming. AEMO is delivering on its strategic priorities in a very fast changing and an increasingly complex external environment. For the first time in the national electricity market, quarterly coal generation fell below 50% of total generation. And in FY25, peak renewable contribution hit a record 75% in the NEM and 85% in Western Australia, and those records continue to be broken. Australia continues to adopt solar in this country at world-leading rates. There are now more than 4 million rooftop solar systems across the country with a total generation capacity of 23 gigawatts. Rooftop solar is now the largest energy generator, and periods of very high rooftop solar combined with lower grid scale electricity supply are leading to new records for minimum operational demand levels. And in the last year, demand records have been broken and then rebroken. In South Australia, rooftop solar provided more than 110% of the state's energy needs at one point in time. Grid-scale batteries are playing an increasing role in the power system, and integrating new battery storage is an important part of our connections program. And consistent with AEMO's projections, gas is playing an increasingly critical role as the ultimate backstop during periods of high demand and low renewable output. AEMO is focused on managing any challenges to system security as coal retires. So throughout the year, AEMO's control room operators have worked with market participants, transmission companies, network owners to really ensure that Australia's energy systems remain secure and reliable. AEMO's functions continue to evolve as we continue to deliver on our objectives in a more complex external environment and energy market. And our core functions as the system and market operator are more challenging. And at the same time, market reform is ongoing and we're embedding these reforms into market operations. Our planning role has evolved too as we work to plan the systems and markets of the future and to enable the energy transition. We're expanding on the 2026 ISP to reflect a broader set of inputs and assumptions, improved demand forecasting and better integration of gas, to name a few. Governments are asking us to help support in investment in essential infrastructure that's needed for transitioning the system. We're evolving the way that we work with stronger governance processes. We're upgrading our digital capability and our operational technology. We're investing in support functions to make sure that AEMO is fit for purpose to be able to operate the energy systems and markets of the future. And this evolving change in the shape of AEMO is actually on a similar journey to many of our international peers who we work with very closely to share our experience and to understand best practice. And how we plan to carry out our responsibilities is laid out in our strategic corporate plan each year. As an organisation, our purpose, our vision and our values set the guardrails for the way that we operate. The corporate plan is available online and provides full transparency over our priorities with each of our strategic initiatives articulated in detail. We performed very strongly against our FY25 corporate plan, delivering 43 of the 53 strategic initiatives, with others still in progress. And I'll now walk you through some of the highlights of each of our 4 strategic priorities. As I noted earlier, the past year was marked with complexity and change. The NEM and the WEM demand profiles continue to widen at both extremes, with growth in underlying demand and rooftop solar setting new records across the country. AEMO's control room staff successfully maintain secure operations of the energy systems and markets. We're also looking into the future at how we can safeguard our ability to operate future energy systems. We're continuing to invest in operational capabilities to address the growing complexity and to manage evolving risks. This includes strengthening operational readiness for the key transition points, modernising operating systems and enhancing cybersecurity and resilience. In FY25, we continued to build our long-term capabilities, like enhancing our control rooms with new functionalities and upgrading the energy market system in the WEM. And cybersecurity is a core part of our business. As an operator of infrastructure that is critical to Australia's security and prosperity, we work very closely with governments and agencies to ensure that our digital and physical infrastructure is protected and defences are maximised. We also work with stakeholders and industry participants to support cybersecurity maturity uplift, to advise on vulnerabilities and threats, and also incidents. In FY25, AEMO continued to collaborate with stakeholders to plan future energy systems and markets to support new investments to enable the transition to net zero. We continue to publish key insights like the quarterly energy dynamics to help guide policy and inform investment decisions in the long-term interests of consumers. In December, we published the first transition plan for system security to navigate the major upcoming transition points like the closure of ageing coal-fired power stations. We actively engaged to influence nearly 50 market reforms across numerous gas and electricity review and rule change processes, including proposing several reforms that were subsequently implemented through our Reform Delivery Program. Important NEM reforms were introduced, improving AEMO's ability to assess and manage reliability and security conditions, to better integrate inverter-based resources, and to support greater market participation of renewable energy resources into the wholesale market. Gas market reforms were also progressed through the AEMC rule change process, reflecting the critical role that gas plays in the future power system. In our connections role, we've worked hard with proponents, with industry and OEMs to process a record number of project connections and new capacity across the 3 phases of the NEM connections process. And there are now 53 gigawatts of new generation and storage projects progressing through that connections process, which is 38% more than at the same time last year. We're also playing an important role to support investment via our role in the Commonwealth's Capacity Investment Scheme and our subsidiary ASL's activities in the New South Wales Energy Infrastructure Roadmap. And costs for those activities are recovered directly, as Vanessa will outline shortly. And people are at the heart of the energy transition, and meeting the evolving needs of energy consumers truly underpins AEMO's work. As the energy transition progresses, the stakeholder landscape is evolving and growing. Tackling the increasingly complex challenges requires really genuine collaboration and cooperation between market bodies, industry participants, governments and consumers. Last year, we collaborated extensively with stakeholders, including participating in a Senate Select Committee inquiry on energy planning and regulation in Australia. Listening to our stakeholders and understanding the diversity of perspectives and their feedback is absolutely critical for AEMO as we carry out our core roles. We seek feedback in many ways, formal and informal. And this year, we expanded our annual stakeholder survey and received really valuable feedback through that process. And I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to provide that formal feedback, as well as those who worked closely with AEMO throughout the year. Overall, stakeholders continue to tell us that they see AEMO as a trusted, competent and reliable organisation, and they value what we do. I'd like to see us continue to enhance transparency and to deepen our collaboration and consideration of consumer perspectives. We've identified a number of opportunities to improve, which we'll continue to implement over the year ahead. In Western Australia, AEMO continues to engage collaboratively on the EPWA rule change process, engaging with stakeholders and other market bodies on the development of a replacement framework. And the coordinators' review is expected to conclude in the second half of 2025. We continue to focus on making our insights and our reports more accessible, and our new podcast series, AEMO On Air, shares insights and has reached almost 20,000 downloads. We also provide a range of training courses on Australia's gas and electricity markets, both online and face-to-face, with a constant eye to improving those education offerings. Over 6,000 people took part in our courses last year, which is a 30% uplift on the year before. And finally, in FY25, we completed the first half of the development for the ISP. And this is, of course, a massive 2-year undertaking that's conducted in real collaboration with market participants, consumer groups, governments and network businesses. Through that process, we received 241 submissions to the various integrated system plan consultations and engaged with over 1,100 people. So as our role evolves in the energy transition, we are focused on making sure that we have the right organisation and the right capabilities to efficiently and effectively deliver on our responsibilities. In FY25, we continue to focus on creating an internal culture that is high-performing and inclusive. And that focus has helped us to attract and retain top talent in quite a competitive landscape. We continue to invest in leadership skills, with over 400 leaders having participated in leadership development throughout the year. And we continue to uplift our systems and our processes to improve efficiency and effectiveness and to make it easier to do business with AEMO. Among others, in FY25, we introduced a new finance system and a new governance, risk and compliance platform. We maintain a strong focus on diversity and equity and inclusion, and we participate in the Energy Industry Champions of Change Coalition and are progressing a number of industry-wide initiatives. We remain fully committed to our Reflect Reconciliation Action Plan and continue to deliver against that important plan in FY25, as mentioned by Kerry at the start of this event. And while I could speak at any length on a number of these or all of these deliverables, I hope that my short summary has provided a flavour of what's been a successful year at AEMO and delivering on our core strategic priorities. So I'll now hand you over to our CFO, Vanessa Hannon, who will take you through our financial performance.
Thank you, Daniel, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm pleased to be able to share some insights into our financial performance for financial year 25. Further detail is provided in our annual report, which includes our audited financial statements. I propose to outline how our financial profile is evolving. I explain how each of our major segments performed and highlight the investments we're making to build capability for the future. Our financial performance reflects the delivery of the functions and responsibilities assigned to us. We do so in accordance with our financial governance principles. These include such things as being efficient and cost-effective, ring-fencing our funding arrangements, and ensuring cost recovery is balanced and sustainable. These guiding principles for financial management and oversight were developed a few years ago alongside our Financial Consultation Committee. This committee comprises members from governments, industry associations and consumer groups. I'd like to thank all members of the committee for another year of support as we progressed our journey to enhance transparency and understanding of our financial performance. Now let's take a look at a few of the highlights. As Daniel outlined, we've had another busy year navigating power system security, the impact of unpredictable weather patterns on our control room, planning for the energy transition, delivering key reforms for the East Coast and West Coast markets, and investing in capability to enhance resilience and improve efficiency. Whilst there are a few areas of our corporate plan that are ongoing, these are reflected in our lower than budget expenditure. We have also applied a targeted approach to cost control, which has achieved further savings to budget. For example, labour productivity was achieved by taking a different approach to resourcing up for new and evolving challenges in operations. Early career talent has been a focus, partnering with experienced experts to grow the capability needed for today and the future. Consulting engagements are the subject of commercial rigour in accordance with our procurement and probity frameworks, yielding negotiated savings outcomes. The digital panel we put in place a few years ago is delivering competitive price tension, and we're also extracting savings through benchmarking for key services. Digital cost optimisation has also been achieved through process redesign, including in relation to the use of cloud computing power, which is used heavily in our business with complex power system models. These cost savings are the most prevalent in the NEMCOR segment, and I'm very pleased to confirm we have cleared the historic accumulated deficit. We made a commitment to stakeholders 3 years ago to resolve the untenable financial position. With their support and a concerted effort and disciplined financial management, AEMO has moved to a more sustainable financial footing in line with our financial principles. These financial principles are front and centre as AEMO is asked to take on new responsibilities to enable the energy transition. The next slide paints a bit of a picture of the changing shape of AEMO's financial profile over time, reflecting additional obligations. The scope of AEMO's responsibilities has evolved in recent years as Australia's energy transition accelerates. We're delivering reforms, supporting the connection of new generation and running tenders to encourage new investment, whilst keeping our core markets running every single day. We're implementing a large pipeline of market reform from the AEMC and EPWA in response to changing market conditions. Reform now represents almost the same proportion of operating expenditure as core activities. Mindful of the cost recovery nature of our business, we work hard to establish appropriate funding sources for any new functions conferred on AEMO. Accordingly, our funding mix is shifting. Historically, most of our work was funded through participant fees. Now, around a third comes from direct funded roles, including significant programs that governments have entrusted AEMO to deliver. This is further explained on the next slide. Our segments cover a range of geographies and functions. Importantly, we seek to provide transparency and financial traceability of costs incurred in performing discrete roles and align the funding sources for each. Central enterprise costs are allocated to each segment in accordance with AEMO's cost allocation methodology. This is a critical part of our financial governance. Direct funded segments are those where costs are recovered directly from contracting parties or beneficiary of that service. For example, the CIS is funded by the Commonwealth Government, and the cost of performing NEM connections are recovered directly from connecting proponents. For the market fee segments, cost budgets inform fee pathways. We aim to align fees with our cost profiles for each segment to ensure a sustainable financial model. When surpluses or deficits arise, we develop an appropriate fee pathway to rebalance that segment. This is further explained in our Budget and Fees publication, which is available on our website. For FY25, each of our segments manage costs within the budget and funding envelopes. In terms of year-on-year trends, cost increases predominantly related to the direct funded segments, in particular, delivery of additional CIS tenders and a continued ramp up in connections in the NEM. In the market fee funded category, further depreciation and amortisation charges account for a higher cost trajectory, stemming largely from implementing mandated market reforms. I'll now expand on some of the larger segments, starting with NEMCOR. NEMCOR is our backbone for the East Coast, operating the national electricity market securely all day, every day. This year, we navigated record demand and minimum system load, maintaining system security as higher levels of renewables entered the system. We enhanced our forecasting tools and delivered key milestones in the engineering roadmap. As highlighted earlier, we have honoured our commitment to clearing the historic deficit. This was achieved through a combination of a tight management of labour, contractor costs and digital costs, and a fee pathway supported by our stakeholders, including the Finance Consultation Committee. Looking forward, we expect fees will trend above inflation in line with global benchmarks to address the growing complexity of operational risks and prepare the energy system for a higher level of renewables. Moving on to NEM functions. This segment comprises several discrete functions in the NEM. The key ones are the development of the Integrated System Plan and a multi-year program of reforms to the NEM, referred to as NEM Reform. Implementation of the NEM Reform program and other market reforms specified by the AEMC require investment in new digital software to run our operating systems in accordance with those new rules. These investments are funded upfront by AEMO, leveraging our credit strength. This benefits the fee profile by spreading the costs over a longer horizon in accordance with the depreciation profile. In FY25, we delivered a number of reforms, most notably frequency performance payments, which strengthens security and improves forecasting with more granular data. We also transitioned 26 grid-scale batteries to bidirectional trading under the new Integrated Energy Storage System rules, which is a big step for flexibility and storage. Next, we have the East Coast Gas segment. Gas markets have been under pressure in recent years as the East Coast gas supply continues to tighten. As a result, the federal government has asked AEMO to implement a number of reforms to the East Coast gas markets. AEMO is now responsible for purchasing gas storage and operating as the trader of last resort under certain circumstances to secure gas supply. In accordance with the rules, we have a restricted financing facility to support trading if required. Despite the increased complexity in this segment, costs have remained relatively stable year on year and in line with budget. I'll now take you to our WA segment. Just like on the East Coast, and arguably more so, operating conditions tested our control rooms. As Daniel mentioned earlier, record levels of renewables were achieved and our teams had to adapt and respond to record high and low demand levels. In addition to responding to these real-time operational challenges, our team also delivered on our reform commitments. We delivered a new reserve capacity certification and launched Project Jupiter with Western Power and Synergy, a 3-year initiative to integrate rooftop solar and community batteries. These activities were all managed and delivered within the fee pathway agreed with the Economic Regulation Authority in WA. I'll now touch just briefly on our direct funded segments. Starting with NEM Connections, AEMO has helped bring new generation online sooner. Connections proponents pay on a fee-for-service basis, which recovers the cost of performing connections and registrations activities. Under the Capacity Investment Scheme, 3 successful tenders were completed in FY25. This is an extraordinary step up in investment in new infrastructure needed for the energy transition, all funded by the Commonwealth Government. As part of ASL's role for the New South Wales Electricity Infrastructure Roadmap, 2 tenders were undertaken. Costs are recovered through the New South Wales funding vehicle. AEMO's subsidiary, Transmission Company Victoria, progressed works associated with the VNI West project, financed by a concessionally priced loan from the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. This business, along with the declared network functions within AEMO, are expected to transfer to VicGrid later this calendar year. As a result, AEMO has reported these activities as discontinuing operations and held for sale in our financial accounts for FY25. Another important part of AEMO's finances relates to its investment program. In recent times, AEMO has needed to invest more to deliver the NEM and WA reforms required of it, as well as uplift core digital operating systems for running the power systems and markets. In FY25, we also made investments to uplift core enterprise capability, including the new finance system that Daniel mentioned, and also the governance, risk and compliance platform. The projects on this slide will impact our operating expenses and fee profile over the coming years as the investment costs are recovered through fees over the life of the asset. We engage with stakeholders throughout the investment cycle to align on the best approach for the program that optimises impacts for all stakeholders. As mentioned earlier, AEMO leverages its credit strength to optimise borrowing costs associated with these investments. In FY25, AEMO put in place interest rate swaps to mitigate against the fluctuations to borrowing costs in the near term when fees are set. This continued financial discipline in FY25 has improved AEMO's financial health. AEMO is well placed to deliver on ongoing operations and new responsibilities asked of it to support the energy transition. I'd like to wrap up the finance section by thanking our stakeholders for their continued collaboration and support, and in particular, members of the Finance Consultation Committee and our financiers. Now back to Daniel for a look at AEMO's priorities for the year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. And as you can see, in a year marked by complexity and change, we have delivered on our promises. We ran energy systems and markets securely, cleared the NEM core deficit, we've delivered within our budget, and we've invested in the future. AEMO's come a long way in our financial oversight and in governance. We have a solid understanding of costs within what is quite a complex business with evolving roles. And we continue to deliver for our stakeholders, including enabling record volumes of new investment in generation, in storage, and in transmission. And we'll continue to improve governance and improve the way that we work with our stakeholders to support greater transparency and to continue to deliver for consumers. So let me just take a few minutes to talk about the priorities for the year ahead. FY26 is shaping up as another busy year of delivery, ensuring secure, reliable and affordable energy today and enabling the energy transition for the benefit of Australian energy consumers. The full detail is available in our strategic corporate plan, which is on our website, but I'd like to mention a few highlights today. We remain absolutely focused on our critical roles in operating Australia's energy systems and markets. We're investing in technology and capability that enables us to operate through that increased complexity. Being prepared for upcoming transition points in the energy systems is absolutely a core focus as well. And that means making sure that we're ready for the impending coal retirements and ensuring that system security needs can be met. And enabling consumer energy resources to maximise their participation as well, ensuring that consumers can maximise their benefits from those resources. Gas has a critical role to play in Australia's energy systems and will continue to work with governments and industry to remove any roadblocks. Internally, we'll be uplifting our security and resilience of our digital ecosystem, and in FY26, we'll see a further uplift in our cybersecurity both at AEMO and in our broader coordination role across the industry. And we'll continue to be prudent and efficient and disciplined, and making sure, though, that AEMO is fit for purpose to operate the energy systems and markets of the future. So as we come to the end of this presentation, I'd like to thank all of our stakeholders for their support and for their partnership through another busy year of delivery at AEMO. And I'd like to thank each of you for joining us today. AEMO's role continues to evolve in response to the challenges of the energy transition, but our focus on delivering our responsibilities in the best interests of Australian consumers is absolutely unwavering. So I look forward to reporting on our progress in next year's results presentations. And now I'm going to hand back to Violette, who's going to help with facilitating the Q&A session.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel and Vanessa will now take some questions. Please post your questions via the Q&A button. We have also received a number of questions ahead of today. Thank you to everyone who sent those through. We will give priority to those questions which are most relevant to the annual results and the presentation today. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will follow up to provide further information in the coming days. I will briefly mention a couple of pre-submitted questions unrelated to the annual results, but nonetheless important. We had a couple of questions on alternative fuel sources, such as biomass and vanadium. It's worth noting that AEMO is technology agnostic in the performance of our statutory functions. I would refer you to your usual AEMO contacts to follow up on any technical details. We have another specific question on potential new bidding or new market buying options for industrial consumers. I would also refer you to the NEM Wholesale Market Settings Review being run by Tim Nelson and a panel of experts for more information. I might start with a couple of questions for you, Daniel, if I could. The first one is, how is AEMO contributing to productivity? And a second and somewhat related question is, as AEMO adds more functions like the $10 million cybersecurity program, major market reforms and big digital system upgrades, has it become too stretched to stay focused on keeping energy reliable and affordable?
Thanks, Violette, and thanks for those questions. Look, on the first question about productivity, there's really sort of two lenses to this. One is how AEMO enables productivity in the economy, and the second is productivity in AEMO's own activities, I guess. And look, on the first topic, AEMO contributed to the federal government consultation process on improving productivity in Australia. And given the scope and the role that we play, energy is obviously a very important part of improving productivity across the economy. Reliable, secure and least cost energy being delivered at the lowest possible cost is obviously pivotal to a strong economy and an enabler of growth. And as we work to enable the energy transition, really supporting investment in those least cost infrastructure through effective investment signals is another way that we play. Implementing reform, etc., to ensure that the industry is continuing to deliver for stakeholders at the least cost. So lots of examples of how AEMO is helping to enable productivity across the Australian economy. Probably loads more, but I should shift gears to the second lens, which was really how we're driving productivity. And we are constantly striving to be more prudent and efficient in the way that we deliver our functions. And that is by making sure that we've got the right organisation, the right capabilities to efficiently and effectively really deliver on those functions. And look, like all companies and organisations, we are constantly looking at how we reduce our costs wherever we can. We have a culture of prudency and efficiency. One example that actually Vanessa mentioned a little bit earlier is the reductions in our IT and cloud costs, and through those we've been able to reduce our costs by tens of millions of dollars over the past 2 to 3 years. So yeah, some very specific example of how we're driving cost reductions. So the second question you had was about how AEMO is adding more functions, and does that mean that we're becoming stretched? And look, the short answer to this is no. Our teams at AEMO are working really hard every day to keep our energy systems secure and reliable and at least cost, and to enable the energy transition. And it's a big job with many moving parts, but our focus is absolutely clear. It is true that governments are asking us to do more, and whether that's a more rigorous integrated system plan, or to help remove barriers to investment, or to help uplift cyber security across the industry, as was mentioned in the question. But I guess I'd say a couple of things about this. First, what we're seeing here is entirely consistent with what we're seeing around the world. So governments are asking their independent system and market operator to lean in and be more proactive in the transition, to help consumers through what is a complex transition because of the unique skills and capabilities and role that we have. Probably the second one is that we're resourced and funded for those activities appropriately. Vanessa mentioned earlier, 30% of our costs are paid directly, so costs recovered directly, not through market fees. And thirdly, look, I'd just say we remain absolutely focused on our critical roles to operate Australia's energy systems and markets, and that is, that it's in our DNA. It's what we do. It is our number one priority. So, sorry, maybe short, maybe long answer to each of those questions. So, Violette, I'll hand back to you for other questions.
Thank you, Daniel. I have a few finance-related questions here for you, Vanessa. Firstly, why did FY26 revenue requirements go up if we returned a FY25 budget surplus? And secondly, how is capital expenditure prioritised across digital upgrades, cyber resilience and system planning?
Thanks very much, Violette, and thank you for the questions. I'll tackle the first one about the, I guess, the disconnect between revenue and costs, or the surplus that we delivered in FY25. I'd start by saying, as I referenced earlier, that we set our fee pathway as best as we can when we're setting our budgets to align with our cost trajectory, but there are at times a mismatch. One of the reasons for that is, as in the case this year, where we have delivered efficiencies that have actually outperformed the budget. There's also some factors that are outside of our control, particularly those relating to market prices. A good example of that is the gas capacity certificate auctions. So a few years ago, there were some additional revenue items that came through and created a surplus, which we have been factoring into our budgets over the near term to return that surplus. As we've sort of flagged earlier in the presentation, as we do look forward, we do anticipate additional activities and costs to go up, and that is in line with our global peers. So that's also reflected in the go forward revenue position. But as always, when we do experience any sustained levels of expenditure or revenue where we've got excessive surpluses or deficits, we do find a pathway through our future fees to make sure those are returned. So it's really a balancing act as we work our way through our budget processes. And they're all made transparent through our budget and fee setting arrangements, which we share with the Finance Consultation Committee. I think your second question related to, I guess, the juggling act of how we prioritise expenditure in our investment space. So probably the first thing to say is that we have a framework which is put in place by our Enterprise Program Office that really guides the manner in which we conduct our investments. And just like any business, we do need to balance risks that we're managing, particularly those impacting our core operations. We need to build our cyber resilience. And of course, we need to implement the reforms, just like others in the industry that are being asked of us by the AEMC and EPWA. And then there's the task of continuing to keep our digital systems and tools that we've invested in shape. And so a continued sort of maintenance required to keep them going. So the framework that we have really provides guidance, but the other key factor is our engagement with industry through different consultation forums that we have both on the East Coast and the West Coast, and we're very mindful of taking into account a wide range of stakeholder views and orchestrating and sequencing our programs across a multi-year schedule to optimise, I guess, the utilisation of the teams, both internal and external, that we bring on to deliver on those programs. So we do also operate within a financial envelope, and we're very mindful that many of these programs, whilst we do fund them upfront on AEMO's balance sheet, they do roll out through fee pathways in the form of depreciation. So as we're setting these budget parameters and fitting the top priority projects in, we're also mindful of making sure we're aware of the impact in the future years through the fee pathway. So I think I'll hand back to you, Violette. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I don't think we've got any more questions. So thank you. And that concludes our session today. Thank you once again for taking the time to join us to cover our annual results. Our annual report is now available on our website. We will follow up today's session with an email linking the annual report and this presentation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to connect with you soon. Goodbye.